Alright lads, it's always finally time for us to update our monthly tier list, this time for the month of March. Now for this tier list video, we have 6 characters to add to our tier list. All 6 characters in my opinion being quite amazing, especially the end of month banner, the Tensei Zangetsu, Ishin, and also the renewed version of Quincy Ichigo. But even then, the mid-month banner that we did receive was also pretty exciting in terms of how powerful the characters are. Definitely above average when it comes to mid-month characters, and we're going to reflect that today on this tier list. But other than those 6 new characters, we also did receive 3 new resurrectable characters, and we're also going to update their rankings in today's video. But before we do begin the tier list, if you guys want to support the channel, you can always head over to Gamersubs and use my code CODESPADA to get yourself 10% off any purchase you make. Gamersubs is currently celebrating Mystery March, where every Friday we get a new waifu cup, and some of these are looking very exciting. I'll definitely be picking up some myself, and if you want to get yourself a waifu cup, you can pick one up too using code ESPADA for 10% off. As always though, our 3 main factors for ranking here include usability. This mainly comes down to the character's killer effect, where can they be used, where do they want to be used in, epic raids, inheritance shrouds, girl quest for example, these things matter. Number 2 goes to damage and range. If you're an SP character, how good are your strong attacks? How hard can you hit on your strong attacks or normal attacks? And number 3 goes to survivability. Does the character have a way to stay at full stamina? Do they have built-in healing? Can they support the team? Or do they have any immunities? These are 3 main factors when it comes to ranking the characters on this tier list. And to start off the tier list, we have the heart tier list. Now in this case, we received no new characters, so there's no new characters to add, but we also did receive a new resurrectable character this month, that being the Kawasaki version of Ruka. Now when it comes to Ruka's resurrection, because she isn't a 1000-year Blood War character, she unfortunately was capped out at 7 skills, and that basically meant that she wasn't able to get any upgrades whatsoever. She wasn't able to get any new skills, and the 2 skills that did get an increase, that being her Bruiser and also Devastation, really doesn't help her out much in the content you want to use her in. Having said that though, she did actually pick up 16% strong attack damage on the soul trait, so that does help out her DPS just a tad bit, but most importantly, it does make it a pretty good link for the heart attribute. Being a 12% recharge and 16% strong attack damage is one of the best links in the entire game. So as a character, the resurrection really didn't change her much. She still essentially performs the exact same, just hitting a tad bit harder on her strong attacks. Not really much for her to move up on the tier list in my opinion, but at least the main thing about this character is that she is now a great link for the heart attribute. But other than that, that's basically all there is to talk about for the heart tier list. No one else got added this month. SS tier, of course, is still going to be your 3 most dominant heart characters, that being Ichigo, the best character in the entire game, 6th Anniversary Aizen still being, again, one of the best characters in the game, and then, of course, also the Spirits Arthur of Yoruichi, who is also set to return tomorrow. Those 3 are without a doubt the top 3 best heart characters in the entire game, with some close contenders, that being Kaname and the Christmas version of Nini. For the power attribute, we received 2 new characters, but before we do add them onto our list, I have one big change to make, and that is actually lowering Yumachika from SS tier to the top of S tier. Now, the main reason why I'm doing that is because he hasn't been the greatest when it comes to clearing IT. Despite him having everything you want when it comes to a character that wants to be used in inheritance trials, he's kind of struggling. And the reason for that could be due to the 2 most recent inheritance trials. Last month we had the hollow enemies that can basically one-shot Yumachika if he got caught in their attacks. And this month we have human enemies in inheritance trials, which not only have killer against him, but of course they also have very fast activating strong attacks. And in Yumachika's case, he doesn't have great crowd control. His 2 attacks that he does have on his SA1 and 2, despite having Havoc, don't have the greatest range, and that usually causes Yumachika to get up close and personal, closer than you want to be, and that opens him up for many attacks. And when I'm playing Inheritance Trials with 4 Yumachikas, for example, I find myself dying quite a bit, and also the entire team. So despite being a character with the skills that you want to have, Pierce Iron Skin, you know, he's buffing the team, he's healing the team, he has a lot going for him, which is why we did originally put him in SS tier. On paper, he's great, but in gameplay and practical use, it does leave a bit more to be desired. Having said that, I don't want to downplay Yumachika. He's still a great character, has a lot going for him again in the team support aspect. But lately I've been wanting just to carry Yumachika or get carried as Yumachika than actually have 4 Yumachikas in a particular lobby. But having a look at the 2 newest characters for the power attribute, first up we have the Fierce Battle version of Stark, which to a certain extent is already kind of controversial. For a mid-month character, he is definitely way better than people are giving him credit for. And the main reason for that is because he does have a pretty high damage output, a 40% Berserker with an additional 30% more damage when you are at full stamina, and also 40% more damage to weakened enemies. With weakened and all of his attacks, he has the potential to hit very, very hard. However, The problem with this character is mainly his SA1. His SA1 is pretty much the worst strong attack 1 in the game. It's a very bad strong attack that unfortunately made its return after many years of not being put on any character, and that's what brings this character down. I don't think it ruins him, but it definitely makes him worse than what he could have been in my opinion. Because your SA1 is the attack that you use most often, ideally you want that strong attack 1 to be perfect. And in his case, it's far from that. Having said that though, what is special about this character is that he is a mid-month character that was given the 20% Havoc skill. If you don't know what this skill does, it increases the range in all of your strong attacks, and the reason why this is impressive is that the last character to receive Havoc plus 20% for a mid-month character was the Mind version of Koga that released around 3 or so years ago. This skill for the most part has been exclusive to end-of-month characters. So start getting this skill not only has me excited to see what other mid-month characters are going to look like in the future, it also lessens the gap between how good a end-of-month character is and also a mid-month character. And don't get me wrong, end-of-month characters are still significantly better, but it's still a step in the right direction to see mid-month characters like this Stark pick up a skill that has commonly been exclusive to end-of-month characters. So because of that, we're going to put Stark into S tier right above Lie. I think Stark is pretty good, definitely better than people are giving him credit for. He has some good usability in Guild Quest as a ranged no affiliation character. If he uses that SA3 in combination with someone like Noel Sylvan, for example, Stark will definitely be helping out your team quite a bit, especially because he does do more damage to weakened enemies. Now, Stark is far from perfect. Again, mediocre SA1, and I think most importantly, the lack of survivability. This character was given no immunities, and because he wants to stay at full stamina, he's going to have a tough time doing that because he also has no way to stay at full stamina, no healing capabilities. So if you want to actually use this character in some harder content like Inheritance Trials, you're going to want to give him some healing links or bonus abilities. But for a mid-month character, I still think he's better than most out there, and that's why Stark is going to S tier. Next up though, we have Ishin, and keep in mind lads, this is a PVE tier list, so we don't really account Brave Battles in here, and Ishin is a Brave Battle character, so he's not really going to be the greatest here. I don't think you would ever really want to use Ishin in normal PvE content, but you definitely can do that because he does have Guard Break. That's the main thing about it. Flurry plus 2 with a built-in bruiser with Guard Break, that is already good enough just to be instantly S tier, but we're going to put him behind Ginjo. It mainly comes down to those 3 skills: Bruiser plus 50%, Flurry plus 2, and also Guard Break. Most of the skills that he does have are only for Brave Battles, so the fact that he's even getting S tier is quite impressive, to be fair. And I do like the fact that he was given Long Reach, so for a Nat character, he makes a good manual character too because he was given that extra bit of range. Unfortunately, not every Nat character nowadays is given Long Reach, and they are always lacking when it comes to melee Nat characters. So yeah, Ishin for a Brave Battle character designed for that particular game mode isn't that bad when it comes to PvE content. Definitely can be used to auto some single player content, is going to be good in Senkamon, and also can be used in the Meliot Soripa Guild Quest. But that's essentially the power tier list. Now let's move on to the next one, which is going to be the Mind tier list. In this case, we received 1 new resurrectable character and also 1 new character. In this case, our resurrectable character for the month is the Cacao Society version of Soifon. And as far as resurrections do go, she got one of the better ones. In her case, she picked up an extra 10% recharge, 20% more strong attack damage, and also 20% more damage to poison enemies. Keep in mind, her sword trait was originally 20% strong attack damage, so essentially in this case she has a 40% berserker, and now does 20% more damage to poison enemies. For a character that came out around 4 to 5 years ago, that's not bad. Honestly, it's not. And the recharge does allow her to spam her strong attacks often now, more often than before. So other than Havoc, which unfortunately she did not pick up, she got a great upgrade. Almost everything you want for a resurrection like this. And due to that, we're going to move her out of C tier and put her around B tier right below Aura. I think her damage is great now, or good enough, and she does have strong attacks that hit quite often, which takes advantage of that more damage to poison enemies. And the fact that she can now spam her strong attacks a tad bit often, more often than not, just allows her to be usable. Nothing special anymore, but the resurrection did make her better, so I really can't complain, and she's also a pretty good link for the Mind attribute. But our newest character for the Mind attribute is the Fierce Battle Yamamoto, and this character is instantly going into S tier, and this might be controversial. It feels weird doing this, but we're putting him above the Mind version of Noel. so near the top of S tier. Now keep in mind, this is actually really impressive because he is a mid-month character. Mid-month characters rarely ever get put in S tier, let alone the top of S tier. And the reason for that is because this Yamamoto has a lot going for him. For starters, he is still a mid-month character, so he wasn't given Havoc, unfortunately. And had he been given Havoc, he definitely would have potentially been top 5 mind characters in the game because the range really does make a big difference here. But lucky for him, the strong attacks that he does have is one of the better ones in the entire game in terms of strong attack kits. He essentially has the exact same strong attacks as 7th Anniversary Uryu and also the Beyond Bankai version of Toshiro. That basically means a Beam SA1, a Lunge SA2, and also a 4-screen SA3. But what makes this character crazy alongside that great strong attack here is the damage output. A 60% Berserker with Frenzy +1, and also most importantly, damage to enemies not afflicted by an ailment plus 100%. And because he can't inflict stat ailments, that means this character is always hitting super hard. It's one of the most broken skills in the entire game, and despite him not actually inflicting stat ailments nor going through or piercing Iron Skin, it allows him to still be used in Inheritance Trials, and we demonstrated that this month because the human enemies are in IT, and he's a great character for that, despite them actually having killer against him. So for a mid-month character with a super high damage output and a great strong attack kit, yeah, instantly going to be an S tier character. Again, the only bad thing about him for the most part is the lack of survivability, no Havoc, and I guess to a certain extent his killer effect. It being human killer really isn't the most optimal one here. Luckily for him, his damage output's so high that sometimes he doesn't care about killer, but at least when it comes to co-op IT, he ideally only wants to be going against human enemies. So outside of this month, you're still going to have a hard time potentially using him, and I guess due to that, I might want to put him lower than someone like Noel, for example. But nowadays, Noel's only really ever seen in guild quests. You don't really ever take it out into Inheritance Trials, whereas Yamamoto, at least when he does have killer, definitely can be used in Inheritance Trials. He's great. For a mid-month character, definitely one of the best ones out there, and it mainly just comes down to his strong attack damage and also strong attack kit. And with the mind attribute done, now let's talk about the speed attribute. In this case, we received one new resurrection and also one new character. In this case, the resurrectable character was the speed version of Momo. She originally was an A tier, and unfortunately for her resurrection, very similar to the Ruka that we did talk about earlier today. Since she already had 7 skills, she picked up no new skills, but at the very least, when it comes to her soul trait, which originally was a 12% strong attack recharge soul trait, is now that with the additional 16% more damage when at full stamina. That not only helps out her normal attack damage, her strong attack damage, but also her soul bomb damage, which is great. It's also the best speed link in the entire game. So even though as a character she didn't really get that much better, again, hardly a difference here, only 16% more damage, the most important part is that she is an amazing link for the speed attribute. So you do want to get her, just for the link aspect. But because she does hit a tap bit harder now, we're just going to put her above Kisuke. That's basically about it. But Tenta Zangetsu is our newest speed character, and before we even talk about him, we're putting him straight into SS tier, and this is what I have to clarify. We're going to put him in 3rd place. Now, you can easily argue this is the best speed character in the game. You can easily argue that because his damage output, the speed he clears content is absolutely crazy. When it comes to Inheritance Trials and only Inheritance Trials, I gotta give it to Tenta as the best speed character because he is absolutely crazy. And the reason for that is because 1, he has a great set of strong attacks, a Beam SA1, Distant AoE SA2, and a 4-screen SA3. All the attacks come out super quick, there's no delay to it. And then the second most important part is that he has an insane damage output, very similar to Yamamoto. In Tenta's case, he has Frenzy +1, a 60% Berserker, 30% more melee damage in co-op quests, and also 100% more damage to enemies not afflicted by an ailment. That in of itself is already crazy. It's the reason why Yamamoto's an S tier, but Tenta goes a step further beyond because he's an end of month character, he was given Havoc, so he has more range, and he also goes through Iron Skin. And that right there is absolutely broken, especially because he also is a link slot farmer, droplet farmer, super link slot farmer. The fact that he's not only like the best character for clearing IT, but also increases the drop rates is absolutely ridiculous for a Tenta character, let alone a premium character. Tenta, without a doubt, is probably one of the smoothest characters to play around with, and due to the speedy clears content, the damage output, and the utility in Inheritance Trials, he's easily going to be an SS tier character. Now, the reason why I'm putting him below characters like Uryu and Okiura, for the most part, you can say they're tied for number 1. The reason why the other 2 are higher is because they have more usability in guild quests, for example. Uryu can be used in 2 guild quest weeks, Aaroniero can technically be used in all weeks, but those two characters are naturally better in Gale Quest content, and Aaroniero was given Sharpshooter, so he's better in Extreme Cop, for example, or any quest that has resistances. But like I said, you can definitely make a case for Tensor to be the best character, especially because he is the better of the three when it comes to clearing IT content, for example. But regardless, these three characters are some of the best in the entire game. They're all premium characters. That's the greatest part about this. They're not limited. They're going to be significantly easier to get when compared to limited characters. And the most important part is all three of these characters have different killers. They're all going to be used in different content. And for the most part, you want to collect all three of them. So it really doesn't matter who is better. Again, it can go either way. You can say they're all tied for first place. It really depends on what you value more. If you value Guild Quest, Aaroniero is going to be number one. If you value survivability and utility, I guess to a certain extent, Uryu's better because he has the weakening and drain. This character is almost never going to die. But if you want to just go through inheritance trials super easy, Tensor's going to be your better character. All three are great to have, and they're starting to round up the speed attribute very nicely, because for the most part, speed has been always on the lackluster end. So Tensor, in my opinion, is a great addition to the game and also the speed attribute. And that then takes us into the final attribute, the technique attribute. In this case, we received two new characters, and the first one to talk about is going to be Lilynet. Lilynet we're going to put into A tier, right above the New Year's Rukia. In design, they're very similar. They are both technique, they both have Quincy Killer, and they both do more damage to enemies once you inflict their status on them. Unlike Yamamoto and also the Stark in the banner with Lilynet, Lilynet didn't get any special skills. You know, Yamamoto got insane damage output. Stark also got a high damage output, but he was given the more range on his strong attacks. Lilynet was kind of like the afterthought on the banner. She doesn't have anything really going for her, and her killer effect definitely leaves more to be desired here. It's going to be very rare if you ever use this character in normal PvE content. Her strong attacks are good. It's very similar to Yamamoto. It's a beam into a lunge, but it's the worst variations of the beam and lunge. So she's lacking significantly on the range. That's the one thing you're going to notice with this character, is that you're going to be missing a lot of enemies, despite having a good set of strong attacks for the most part. And then the fact that this character wants to inflict stat elements, doesn't have an increased chance to do so, and also is lacking havoc. Yeah, she's an okay character. That's basically about it. It's not really a bad thing though, and keep in mind, just because she's an 80 character doesn't mean she is useless. She, for the most part, is the arena character of the banner. She gets more skills in the arena game mode, and that's where she was more so designed for. You don't really want to bring it into PvE content. You want to bring it into arena, because that's where her skills and overall kit is going to be more useful there. Lacerate stops the enemies from using their strong attacks. Her attribute and killer combination is good against 7th anniversary Uryu, who is very common in arena, and she also gets better with the arena skills that she does pick up. So A tier for PvE content. For arena, she's probably one of the better ones. Not like super amazing, but great enough to be used in arena, so keep that in mind. But last but not least, we have a redemption story. Quincy Ichigo is back with his renewed version, and he is instantly going into SS tier. But where exactly is he going to go in SS tier? Now again, you can probably go back and forth between these two characters. For me, I'm putting him at the top of SS tier. So yes, I am saying he's better than Toshiro. Now, for the record, that does not make Toshiro pointless. It doesn't make Toshiro bad. I saw a lot of people trashing on Toshiro, saying he already got power correct. Listen, Toshiro's still OP, content is still the same. Both of these characters absolutely destroy the content they're put against, and one does not invalidate the other. So for those that pulled for Toshiro and got him duped out, for example, you do not waste your orbs. He's still a great character, and this Ichigo releasing does not invalidate Toshiro as a character. Nor does it really invalidate everyone else in this tier list. But having a look at this new and renewed Quincy Ichigo, what makes him a SS tier character? For starters, his damage output is ridiculously high, being the first character in the game outside of Arena to have Frenzy +2 with also the status element spiritual pressure boost at +80%. So usually when it comes to characters like this, you were either given Frenzy +2 or you were given Frenzy +1 with this spiritual pressure boost. He got both of them. That's crazy in of itself. What's also crazy is that alongside those two skills, he has Berserker +40%, an extra 20% strong attack damage that you buff to your entire team, and then he has an easy time inflicting status element thanks to his increased status element chance against any speed enemy. It's ridiculous. And to make it even better, weakening and drain on every single attack just means that you're constantly inflicting status elements. You're constantly being at the max damage potential. With Toshiro, and granted Toshiro doesn't have a hard time getting all his damage buffs, Toshiro has a lot of conditions. Inflicting a status element, being at full stamina, activating the gauge. Toshiro's damage output fluctuates throughout the entire quest. In Ichigo's case, he's almost always going to be performing at max damage potential. And alongside that, because he has the drain, he's always healing himself back up to full stamina. So despite this character not being given any immunities, it doesn't matter because he's constantly at full stamina. You take any damage, that's fine. Use one strong attack on a bunch of enemies, you're back up to full stamina, you're doing more damage because you're weakening. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's not even going into the fact that Ichigo also reduces everyone's recharge by 20% every time you enter another map. That's actually pretty good. I've noticed it quite a bit while playing with this character, and it allows your strong attacks to almost be ready when you go against a new wave in a new room. But even the single player content allows you to recharge your strong attacks faster, which is important because this character is clearing content super fast, so you're able to pull off some ridiculous speedruns with this particular Ichigo. And I guess it's also worth mentioning too, he has two good killer effects, that being Hollow and also Human. Human not being that relevant, but right now he does have killer against human IT enemies, so it's not that bad. Compared to Toshiro has Soipa and Squad Zero. Squad Zero you rarely, if ever, see. Human enemies are more common than Squad Zero enemies. So when it comes to comparing the two, Ichigo does have the more relevant killers for the most part. But once more, both are great. They have different killers. You kind of want to have both on your account. But in my opinion, for those that wanted to know like what I compare the two, I think Ichigo just edges out Toshiro a tad bit. Despite having a somewhat mediocre SA1, that's one thing people will say in regards to Quincy Ichigo's new character. SA2, great. SA3, great. SA1, not really the greatest in terms of, you know, meta strong attacks, but his damage output, everything this character does, it just doesn't matter about the SA1. They could have gave him Stark's SA1, and this character still would have been SS tier. But maybe that's pushing it a tad bit. But either way, lads, that was the video for today, ranking the newest characters in Bleach Brave Souls. This month, I would like to think is actually quite crazy in terms of the characters that we did actually get. 2 characters instantly going to SS tier, one of them being a farmer, both of them being premium, and even for the mid-month banners, which usually are just A tier characters, we got 2 very solid S tier characters, and also an A tier, but at least that character is better in Arena where the character was designed for. So yeah, I think all 6 characters that came out this month are all great, all have a place in the game, and definitely can be used, despite a few of them having maybe 1 or 2 problems in their kit. But other than that, as someone that did get all 6 of them, I had a lot of fun playing with all of them, more so than usual. So with that said, if you lads did enjoy the video, make sure you show support by liking it. In the comments below, if you lads have any disagreements, let me know, and we can potentially reflect that for next month. I hope you lads enjoyed the video. I'll see you lads next time. Take care, and peace.